Hello, welcome to Medicine for the Soul Yoga. My name is Kat, and today we are going to be practicing the first class of our Journey to Crow series. So I'm really excited to get going. All levels are really welcome. You might want a cushion if this is the first time that you're practicing. And yeah, I'll see you on your mat. Hello, so welcome to our Journey to Crow pose series. There will be 30 classes in this series. And yeah, by the end, hopefully we'll get to crow pose. Don't worry if you've come here as a complete beginner and never done an arm balance before. We'll take it really slowly. We're going to build up the strength that's needed, and we'll do it really safely as well. So first of all, I want to show you what crow pose looks like so that we know what we're practicing. So I've warmed up, and that's really important. Always warm up before you practice any arm balancing. So just to show you what we're working towards, and also when I first saw a yoga teacher in a class do this, I thought, I'm never going to be able to do that. So if you're having those thoughts, don't worry, let them go. You will get there with consistency and self-belief. So this is what crow pose looks like. So this is the end goal, really. Definitely helps to have sticky leggings and not be wearing long sleeves, because you need the knees to be having a bit of grip on the arms. If we're wearing a long sleeve top, it really makes it a lot harder. So just being mindful of that. A slightly easier version of crow pose, which we're going to start with and then progress to this, the one I just did later on in the course, is instead of having the knees right underneath the armpits, having the knees squeezing the outside edges of the arms. It's just a slightly lower crow pose, and which is what we're going to be working on to begin with, and then we can move into the more advanced crow pose if you're feeling ready for it during the course. So in this version, the knees hug the outside edges of the hands, and it's still the same, but it's just slightly lower and just a bit more accessible. So that's where we're going to be at. So if you're feeling quite nervous as well about the idea of falling over, I recommend that you always have with you a cushion, and you can just put that in front of the face. And this just means if you do topple over, there's not very far to land, so you won't hurt yourself, but it just gives a bit of padding. If you're feeling really, really nervous and it's preventing you from actually finding flight in your crow, then I'd recommend getting a kind of sofa cushion or something to really bring a bit of height up, so that when you're in your crow pose, you're not so scared about falling because there's something there to catch you. So those are two good tools to use that definitely help me build up my confidence as well. To start with, we're just going to do some warm-ups. So we're going to sit on the shins or cross-legged is fine, and we'll fold the wrists and we'll just release the wrists. So the wrists are obviously going to be used quite a lot, and it's really important to keep them mobile and keep them happy. So just flexing the wrists, pushing each hand away. And then crossing the palms, pushing the hands away and round in the back, draw the chin down. Big deep breath. Exhale everything out. As we inhale, flip the palms, reach the hands up. Good, and then exhale, release the hands. And we'll just do a few shoulder rolls here. Focus on the breath now. So this is still a yoga practice, and one amazing thing about arm balances, which I love them so much, is that once you're in the arm balance, it's a real mindful moment. You're just focusing with your breath, so it's a real meditative practice. Pushing the hands back over the head. Good, and then we'll release the hands behind the back, and we'll gently bring the forehead onto the mat and just lift the hips up slightly. Let the hands just release, releasing out the shoulders. And then gently rolling back. Good. We'll place the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll place one foot out and then the other. So we're going to come into low squat, and we're just going to move side to side. So we really need the hips to be quite open for this pose as well. So letting the toes and heels lift as we travel side to side. focusing on the breath, pausing for a moment in the center. The hands can be supporting us, or perhaps the palms are joining together. Focusing on lifting the chest. So one really important part of crow pose is this feeling of lift, keeping the chest lifting and not toppling. So in this pose, really think about lifting up the chest. Hands can be on the mat, that's fine. As we exhale, we're going to push the hips up, heel toe the feet in, coming into a gentle forward fold, and we can just wiggle the heels up and down, waking up the hamstrings a bit. Big inhale, big exhale. Good. And then we can just come onto the knees. Perfect. So we're going to have a little play with the alignment now. So in every class, what we'll do is we'll do a warm-up. I'll remind you of all the alignment cues so you know where everything's meant to be. We'll have a little play. We'll then do some drills to build up the strength and muscle memory that's needed. And then we'll have another little play at it and a cool down. As the course progresses, the classes will get slightly longer, and there might be a kind of sequence involved in the drills or even in the crow pose as well. So we'll slowly build it up over time. So one of the most important things is that people think that all the strength is needed in the arms for this pose, and actually it's mainly the core and the hips. Obviously your arms need to be strong enough to hold you up, but your arms, because they're bent, are really just acting as a shelf. All the strength from your core and your hips is what's going to keep your hips lifting up. So we're going to focus a lot on core strength, which is great because that builds a solid foundation for the rest of your practice. And another reason why crow pose is so good is because it does really build that foundation for you to build on and develop more advanced poses as well. Another key thing is hand placement. So when we place the hands on the mat, the fingers need to be spread and really engaged. So when you look at the fingertips, you can almost see the whites of your fingertips as they press into the mat. So most of our weight is going into our fingertips and into our knuckles of the hands. This spreads the weight out evenly. We're not collapsing into the wrist, and we're allowing the forearm muscles to start to build, to hold us in these arm balancing poses. And this is even when we're in tabletop, downward dog, anything, your hands should be really gripping on the mat. A passive hand with the fingers together is going to cause wrist issues over time. So please get into the habit of always engaging the hands, almost gripping the mat, spreading the weight evenly, building strength in the arms so we're not just collapsing all the weight in quite a weak area of the body, the wrist. So we're just going to do a little bit of alignment, so feel free to follow me as we just introduce the pose. Again, if you want to bring the cushion, we're not going to be flying up today at all, but if you do feel like you need that anyway, you can draw that there. So we'll have the hands either side, shoulder width apart. And we're going to lift the heels up. So we're coming into kind of a low squat, but the heels are lifted because we need the knees high. And we're going to squeeze the knees in to the backs of the arms. That's our first kind of step. When we begin to gently lean forward, we're not bringing ourselves down. We're flying up and forward with the chest. And when we bend the arms, we're not letting the elbows come out to the side. We're drawing them back and squeezing them in. So everything needs to be squeezed really in. If we collapse the elbows out to the side, we lose a lot of strength in the shoulders. So we keep the elbows hugging in. We keep the knees squeezing up at the top of the arms. Keep the hands engaged. Squeeze the elbows in as you gently begin to bend the elbows and bring yourself forward, but also up. Perhaps can you roll onto your big toes here? And this is the kind of first step of where we want to be. Elbows squeeze in and see how that can lift the hips up a bit higher. Keep breathing and then gently coming back down. Good, just wiggling out the hips. So we're going to try that again, lifting up the heels, squeezing in the knees on the back of the arms, looking forward, finding height and lift as we roll onto the toes. Maybe we can tap one toe and then the other off, experimenting with our strength here, and then rolling gently back down. Good. And just release out the hips. Keeping the hands where they are or walking them slightly forward, or lift the hips, and we'll just come into downward facing dog. Let the heels lift side to side. Big deep breaths in and out through the nose. Good. As we inhale, we'll roll ourselves forward into a plank. We're going to come into a bit of a variation of plank. Bring your knees down if you need to, but if you can, we're going to step the right hand forward and then the left. So we're in this kind of extended plank. So the wrists are beyond the shoulders, but the hips are still drawing down, the heels are drawing back. Shoulders are pushing away from the ears. Focus on the breath, building that real solid foundation. One more big inhale, and then exhale. Let the knees draw down and gently slide the hips back. Let the hands follow. Bring the forehead onto the mat. Let the shoulders wiggle out side to side. And then perhaps just roll yourself on your forehead side to side. Gently we'll slide up. Let the hands follow us back to the body. Big shoulder roll at the top. Good. Draw the chin down to the neck, and we'll roll the neck out. Good. So we're going to do another plank pose. As the course develops, we're going to work a lot with plank, and we will build up the amount of time that we hold in our plank. So even if crow pose isn't necessarily the goal, or isn't something that you actually end up achieving, we're still going to be really building strength and building such a solid foundation in your core that you'll see such benefits in the rest of your practice as well. So this really will benefit everybody. Again, bring the hands out wide if you can, out long if you can, otherwise keep them under the shoulders. It's a bit harder with them further away. Tuck the toes, sink the hips. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Check in with the hands. Are the fingers engaged here? Are we squeezing the glutes? Drawing the heels back. Focusing on the breath. Keeping the neck long. Wobbling and shaking like I am is a good sign. Obviously rest when you need to. Stay with me if you can. One more big inhale. Good. Exhale. We'll drop the knees. We'll walk the hands back if they were forward, and we'll gently sink the hips and just come into a nice cobra. Stretch out the core. Feel the length as you reach the chest up and forward. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, we can look over to our right, maybe dipping the left shoulder down as well. Inhale back up to center. Exhale over to left. Inhale back up to center. And then exhale, gently pushing back. Back to our child's pose. Take a big breath here. And then gently rolling up again, sliding those hands back to our shins, big shoulder roll. So we're just going to try one more little play. We're going to not focus so much on the actual crow pose to begin with, because we don't want to damage the wrists or get disheartened if we can't do it. But obviously it's fun to practice a little bit. So we're just going to do a little bit at the start and a little bit at the end of every class. So we're going to come back into it. If you do feel issues with your wrists, please stop, because that means that your previous practice has been putting too much weight on your wrists. You need to take a break, let the wrists recover, and then come back to it with this solid hand foundation. If you continue with it with your hands like this or with pain in your wrists, it could really damage your wrists. So please listen to your body. Let the knees come out wide. Let the heels lift. Again, remembering when we draw the elbows back, we keep them hugging in. We squeeze the knees into the back of the leg. So we're not that high. And we just gently tip forward. We make a shelf with the arms and we lift the hips. Imagine we're flying forward. Could you squeeze the elbows a bit in and kind of get a bit more height? Keeping on your big toes is fine. Focus on the breath. So we're really building the strength here in our core and in our arms. Maybe toe tapping if you would like. See what that feels like. Bring the weight a bit more forward. Breathe and gently come down. Good. And we'll just let the hands come behind us. Bring the feet forward, soles of the feet touching, and gently release over the legs. Gently swaying side to side. Big deep breaths in and out through the nose. Gently rolling up. Drawing the knees together. And we'll just let the knees sway side to side. Good, and then we'll just squeeze the legs. Lean back on the legs slightly, releasing out the back of those shoulders, drawing the chin down. Take a big breath. Good, and then gently reaching the head up. Well done. So that was our first class of Journey to Crow. Wherever you are in that journey, this course is going to be great for you to build up your strength, to either get the flight or to build a really solid crow and a really strong core as well. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon.